Trump really wants to end the war. He has talked to Putin over the phone. He's also spatting with Zelensky, who certainly doesn't want to end this conflict anytime soon. As a realist, he has indirectly proposed a deal. Ukraine will not join NATO, a long standing red line for Putin. Russia will retain control over one fifth of Ukraine, including Crimea, and Russia may even be allowed back into the Group of Seven, effectively making it the G8 once again. At first glance, this might seem like Trump is handing a victory to Putin, the man who, in theory, invaded a sovereign nation and has waged a war for 3 years. But with Trump, things are never as they seem. His approach is entirely different from that of other American presidents. His strategy towards Russia and Ukraine reveals how he thinks about military conflicts and victories, as well as long term US interests. Trump's real focus here is China. He and his team believe that Beijing, not Moscow, poses the greatest threat to US security. At the same time, he wants to prevent a nuclear war with Russia. So instead of draining America's resources on the Ukraine conflict, Trump wants NATO or European NATO to take responsibility for the problems. Under Biden, the US has given Ukraine $200 billion in military and financial aid, while dangerously depleting its own weapons stockpile. Trump sees no return on this investment and wants to stop it. His plan is to halt the bloodshed, both of Ukrainians and of US military resources, so that America can focus on countering China. Beijing has a well documented military strategy to challenge US dominance and is preparing for possible military action against Taiwan. Trump's goal is to counter China's ambitions, but he wants to do it differently from past American leaders who have engaged in costly, endless wars. For the past 25 years, Washington has repeatedly sent American troops into conflicts that drained resources and lives, but brought no lasting victories. The wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, and Syria cost trillions of dollars and resulted in the death of thousands of Americans. The US spent $2.2 trillion and sacrificed over 6,000 American lives in Afghanistan alone, while the conflicts in Iraq and Syria claimed nearly 3 trillion and hundreds of thousands of casualties. None of these countries turned into stable democracies, as American policymakers had hoped. In many ways, they are far worse off today than before American intervention. Trump, as both a businessman and a statesman, does not want America to repeat these mistakes. He sees China's leader, Xi Jinping, as a long term strategic threat and wants to win the next major geopolitical battle, but on his terms. His approach is not the traditional Washington way of military intervention, but rather a strategy of achieving victory without direct conflict. Trump's thinking aligns with the teachings of ancient Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu, who wrote in The Art of War, "To win 100 victories in 100 battles is not the supreme excellence. Supreme excellence is to subdue the enemy, to break his resistance without fighting." He also had warned, if victory is long coming, then men's weapons will grow dull and their ardor will be damped. If the campaign is protracted, the resources of the state will not be equal to the strain. This is exactly what has happened with America's foreign wars. Trump believes that victory is not about defeating Russia. It is about protecting the US homeland and avoiding unnecessary wars. His plan is to preserve military resources, rebuild US strength, and secure the nation's borders, especially against China's growing influence. For Trump, winning without fighting is the true art of war.